Tucker Carlson sat down with President Vladimir Putin for his first interview in over 4 years, and I gotta admit it, I was impressed with Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson asked him some strong questions. Tucker Carlson pushed back. Tucker Carlson challenged some of his logical inconsistencies. Tucker Carlson even demanded that he release someone as a measure of good faith, okay? But I wanted to zone in on this part of the conversation where they start talking about orthodoxy and faith. And that is why this channel exists, by the way, is to encourage, empower, and inspire you guys to live a life full of faith that blesses God. So if you're not new here, or you are new here, hit that subscribe button, okay? A lot of you guys who watch this channel are not subscribed. That's what the data is showing me, and I would love for you to subscribe and turn your bell notification on. Let's jump into this clip. This is from the hour and 41-minute mark, and listen to this exchange regarding Vladimir Putin and Christianity. Check this out.
Hell knows. I don't understand it myself. There was a general starting point. For some reason, everyone had the illusion that Russia could be defeated on the battlefield. Because of arrogance, because of a pure heart, but not because of a great mind.
Okay, so he brings up, listen to this. This is where Tucker Carlson brings up faith.
You've described the connection between Russia and Ukraine. You've described Russia itself a couple of times as orthodox. That's central to your understanding of Russia. You said you're orthodox. What does that mean for you? You're a Christian leader by your own description. So what effect does that have on you?
It's a great question. What effect does you being a Christian leader have on you?
You know, as I already mentioned, in 988, Prince Vladimir himself was baptized following the example of his grandmother, Princess Olga.
And his response was Prince Vladimir in 988 was baptized. Now, I grew up in the former Soviet Union under communism. I don't remember anything about Orthodox anything.
And then he baptized his squad. And then, gradually, over the course of several years, he baptized all the Rus. It was a lengthy process, from pagans to Christians. It took many years.
Tucker Carlson's face is amazing.
But in the end, this orthodoxy, Eastern Christianity, deeply rooted itself in the consciousness of the Russian people. When Russia expanded and absorbed other nations who profess Islam, Buddhism, and Judaism, Russia has always been very loyal to those people who profess other religions. This is her strength. This is absolutely clear. And the fact is that the main postulates, main values are very similar, not to say the same, in all world religions I've just mentioned, and which are the traditional religions of the Russian Federation, Russia.
So he goes from this guy over 1,000 years ago baptized these soldiers, and Russia also embraces people from other faiths.
By the way, Russian authorities were always very careful about the culture and religion of those people who came into the Russian Empire. This, in my opinion, forms the basis of both security and stability of the Russian statehood. All the peoples inhabiting Russia basically consider it their motherhood. They say people move over to you or to Europe from Latin America. An even clearer and more understandable example, people come, but yet they have come to you or to European countries from their historical homeland. And people who profess different religions in Russia consider Russia their motherland. They have no other motherland. We are together. This is one big family, and our traditional values are very similar. I've just mentioned one big family, but everyone has her own family. And this is the basis of our society. And if we say that the motherland and the family are specifically connected with each other, it is indeed the case, since it is impossible to ensure
Tucker's face is amazing.
A normal future for our children and our families unless we ensure a normal, sustainable future for the entire country, for the motherland. That is why patriotic sentiment is so strong in Russia.
But can I say that the one way in which...
No, he cuts him off. He cuts him off. And this, I'm not the biggest Tucker Carlson fan, but right here, I got to give him props. Listen to what he says.
The religions are different is that Christianity is specifically a nonviolent religion. Jesus says, turn the other cheek, don't kill. How can a leader who has to kill of any country, how can a leader be a Christian? How do you reconcile that to yourself?
It is very easy. When it comes to protecting oneself and one's family, one's homeland, we won't attack anyone. When did the developments in Ukraine start?
So he's saying, which I agree with, if you're a Christian, you have the right to defend yourself. But then he pivots because he knows what the answer is. You kind of preemptively struck and attacked Ukraine as a quote-unquote military operation. That sounds a bit inconsistent with Jesus' teaching on this.
Since the coup d'etat and the hostilities in Donbass began, that's when they started. And we're protecting our people, ourselves, our homeland, and our future. As for religion in general,
Listen close.
You know, it's not about external manifestations. It's not about
As for religion in general, it's not about external manifestations. Vladimir Putin claims to be an Eastern Orthodox, but he sounds like a fringe cheap gracer. It's not about external manifestations. So your faith doesn't require any external manifestations? And then listen to what his critique of the West is going. By the way, this isn't just Putin and the Russian Orthodox. This is a lot of people view faith this way.
It's not about going to church every day or banging your head on the floor.
No one said it was about going to church every day and banging your head on the floor. He simply said, hey, Christianity teaches that you should turn the other cheek and not attack people preemptively.
It is in the heart. And our culture is so human-oriented. Dostoevsky, who was very well known in the West and the genius of Russian culture, Russian literature, spoke a lot about this, about the Russian soul.
So it's not about your actions, it's about your soul. It's not about external manifestations, it's about the inside.
After all, Western society is more pragmatic. Russian people think more about the eternal, about moral values.
So his critique, listen here, his critique is that Western society is more pragmatic. What does that mean? More practical, more does the ends justify the means. Now, being pragmatic is not always good either, because then you just go with like, well, whatever, there was 1 million people there, therefore God had to be in it. Beyonce had 1 million people at her concert, therefore God blessed her. That's the fringe side of pragmaticism. He's saying that the West is more like that. He's saying the Russian Orthodox position is it's about what's in the heart and in your soul, in the Russian soul, and less about your actions.
I don't know, maybe you won't agree with me, but Western culture is more pragmatic after all. I'm not saying this is bad. It makes it possible for today's golden billion to achieve good success in production, even in science and so on. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that we kind of look the same.
So do you see the supernatural at work as you
Listen to this
look
question.
out across what's happening in the world now? Do you see God at work? Do you ever think to yourself, these are forces that are not
Listen to what
human?
he says. Listen to what Putin says.
No, to be honest, I don't think so. My opinion is that the development of the world community is in accordance with the inherent laws.
So he doesn't. So he said, do you see God in the supernatural work? He says, I don't. It's within the laws that got set up.
And those laws are what they are. It's always been this way in the history of mankind. Some nations and countries rose, became stronger and more numerous, and then left the international stage, losing the status they had accustomed to.
So I'll give you guys a quick meme on basically what this conversation went like. I'll summarize it very, very simply for you guys. All right, you guys ready? I sent this to my buddy Zuby. We were talking about this. Here is the entire conversation summarized. This is basically how the conversation went. Shout out to Michael Knows before this. He says, Tucker Carlson asks, why did the chicken cross the road? To understand the chicken, to understand the road, one must recall Brunus Demonstratus of the red juggalo flow in 6000 BC. Then, within 2 millennia, an appearance of the roads in Mesopotamia, that is, in Babylon, of course, in your... That's how the whole conversation went. That's how the whole conversation went. But it goes to show something that I don't think Putin's, it's all about what's in your heart. Your external actions don't matter. It's not about going to church every day. I think that, believe it or not, this is how a lot of people approach faith. Faith is something personal. It's not something practical. Faith is something that's inside of your heart. It's not in your actions. Faith is something that is yours and private. It's not something that should be viewed publicly. This is very dangerous. Now, the other extreme is also very dangerous, right? If everything's just pragmatic and the ends justify the means, he's saying the West is like that. That could also be very, very dangerous, right? But the truth is that we don't just do things because the ends justify the means, but at the same time, we also have to acknowledge that faith without works is dead. If you're claiming to be a Russian Orthodox Christian, that should impact how you govern. That should impact how you govern. And so I appreciate Tucker Carlson leaning into that conversation. I don't think many people caught it. I didn't hear anyone else talk about it. And I'm happy that he did. Now, I will say this. It is good to understand the other perspective. Putin is extremely well-spoken. He kind of rambles a lot, but generally speaking, he did a good job of navigating this conversation and giving the other side of the history of why what's happening in Ukraine is happening in Ukraine, right? Which I appreciate. I appreciate because I like to steelman people. I don't like to strawman people. So I appreciate that. And I thought the conversation overall was good. And Tucker Carlson definitely got some respect on my end in terms of just him asking the hard questions. He did not ask hard questions like this with Andrew Tate, and I thought that was a great job that he did there. So anyway, those are my thoughts, guys. Let me know what you guys think. We see, according to the Bible, that prayer is extremely important in terms of us being transformed from the inside out when we get aligned with God's will. For the Christians watching this channel, I want you guys to implement these spiritual disciplines in your day-to-day life. And the only way I've been able to do this consistently is through writing down my prayers in a prayer journal that does a few things. One, it allows me to reflect and come to God humbly and ask Him to move on my behalf. And two, it allows me to document my prayers, which ultimately help me remember the very things that I was praying for and see the hand of God tangibly in my life when He answers them. So I would urge you, consider writing down your prayers. It could be in a blank notebook. It could even be on your phone. Or you could check out the one I personally designed and used for my own quiet time and spiritual discipline that I think will be a huge blessing. It's the exact structure and system that I've used for years to pray and be more consistent in my spiritual disciplines. You can pick yours up today by clicking the link in the pinned comment below. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.